Good afternoon. The ANC Secretary-General Magashule has assured fellow party leaders that he will cooperate with law enforcement officials and will present himself before court on Friday. The top six meeting urgently last night following a warrant issued to Magashule for his arrest. The Hawks are coming for all of those connected to the Free State Asbestos contract. Let's start our coverage on this story with the ANC Deputy Secretary-General Jesse Duarte, who briefed a short time ago.
Magashule briefed the officials about the content of the letter he received, which indicates that he will be charged under Section 34 of the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act. The charges relate to his alleged failure to exercise oversight whilst he was Premier of the Free State Province. The Secretary-General assured officials that he will fully cooperate with the law enforcement agencies and will present himself to court on Friday. The SG expressed his preference to officials that he would not want any individual or groups to march, print posters, T-shirts and placards on this matter and in his name. The national officials expressed the wish that all structures respect this in the spirit of one ANC and to respect the rule of law. The ANC officials, in the spirit of the 54th Conference resolutions, continue to condemn all acts of corruption and malfeasance. The officials will remain seized with the matter to ensure that the Secretary-General goes through the legal processes, and that the processes are fair and without prejudice. The judiciary is independent in accordance with our Constitution, and we respect this. We therefore call on all sectors of society to allow the law to take its course.
Furthermore, the ANC's top six says they have not discussed whether Ace Magashule should step down or not.
First question was from Lizega on whether in the meeting of the officials we discussed the issue of Comrade Secretary-General stepping down. And no, we did not discuss that. The SG briefed us about the letters he has received from law enforcement agencies and the fact that he will cooperate and he will go to court on Friday. You will recall, I'm sure most of the journalists will know, that the issue of stepping down is a matter that the NEC is still seized with. And I'm sure in the next NEC, the matter will further be discussed. So we didn't venture into discussing that. Did Comrade Ace himself volunteer to stepping down? I've already answered that we did not discuss that matter.
The ANC's Paul Mashatile, make no mistake, it's a big political and legal week. I'm going to talk to our political editor, Voyo Mvoko, in just a moment. He'll look at the political ramifications. You can also see Michael Apple in our newsroom, and we'll look at the legal side of this equation. Voyo Mvoko, to you first of all, good afternoon. Let's get straight to the point about whether the SG is going to step down or not. It was not discussed. The NEC still seized with the matter, and right at the end of that conference, the ANC's Jesse Duarte is saying they are now going to take legal counsel.
Well, Jeremy, I think if there was ever a doubt that ANC leaders are either not prepared or simply incapable of showing leadership, this is one instance that I think has made that abundantly clear to each and every one of us. How the top officials of the ANC could have a meeting and not even talk about the possibility even of the Secretary-General stepping aside is really beyond me. Because number one, as you would have heard from the questions that were asked there, the ANC constitution is in fact clear, but what the officials also made clear is that they decided on their own accord to go against a conference resolution because they felt it had problems. I think that's about sums up the dynamics that are going on, which obviously the officials during that media briefing didn't get into in any particular detail.
What are the dynamics that are going on? Is it simply a case of the Secretary-General exercising an enormous amount of influence over that meeting last night and simply saying, we're not going to talk about this?
Well, he does, to the extent that the Constitution of the ANC says the Secretary-General of the ANC leads those processes when it comes to the rest of the membership of the ANC. But as Jesse Duarte and Paul Mashatile together tried to explain, at some point the ANC leadership decided that what the ANC membership resolved at conference wouldn't do the trick. The question is why? Why couldn't they implement resolutions of the ANC conference? Because conference is the highest decision-making body of the ANC. The NEC only comes in between conferences. The question then is, what made these leaders decide to go against a conference resolution? That, for me, is the one issue that we haven't interrogated adequately, and it has to do with the fact that they cannot, between the six of them, even begin to say, but comrade, do you not think that you should perhaps do the right thing and maybe lead by example, even if, as we stand, we haven't finally resolved this matter? And what they're doing instead is basically kick the can down the road and say, at the next NEC meeting, we'll interrogate this matter.
And here's the astonishing irony, because a question was then asked about whether this is going to have an impact on the election. I'm not talking about next year, I'm talking about right now.
Yes.
People, as we speak, are voting in a raft of by-elections right across the country. Paul Mashatile is saying, yes, of course. Then he went on to say that he wants voters to, and I quote, understand that the ANC takes the challenge of corruption seriously. Well, what you're telling me is they don't.
They don't. By, in fact, Ace Magashule's own admission. Remember the conversation we were having with him yesterday here on your show? He said as much, that they acknowledge that, 26 years into democracy, the people, of Soweto should not have been raising the issues that they were raising yesterday. And he said he was hoping that the people are, of course, going to vote for the ANC, notwithstanding their disappointments with the ANC.
How incendiary could this get? Because there was also the issue, I think you might have raised it in one of your questions, about whether there is the propensity here for civil unrest. The party is calling for calm ahead of the appearance on Friday, but nonetheless it says that it's driven by factions, but two, there are elements within those factions who are inevitably going to ignore that call for calm.
It doesn't get more appalling, doesn't it? Well, first of all, you have an official, a senior official, the man who runs the ANC, Ace Magashule, having said repeatedly, twice this year in the two conversations or interviews that I've had with him, that he believes that state law enforcement agencies are being used by those in government to fight the ANC's factional battles. The ANC president, at a briefing, the last briefing of the ANC, I asked him whether indeed the Secretary-General of the ANC had raised these issues, what their responses were. And he said yes, Ace Magashule had actually raised these issues, but then went and said wouldn't protect the state law, the country's state law enforcement agencies, to say no official should make unjust claims they cannot justify, or and cast aspersions on the work of state law enforcement agencies. There you had the very first problem, and the ANC president, the president of the country, was in those meetings where Ace Magashule cast aspersions on state law enforcement agencies. That is where the problem starts. Now take what has happened overnight. You've had a mayor of a big metropolitan in this country asking citizens to take to the streets, encouraging, in fact inciting civil unrest. The officials of the ANC claim not to know or to have seen any of that. That made headlines. That got South Africans talking. They were appalled that a person with such responsibilities, would say the things that Mzwandile Masena said. But none of the officials of the ANC seem to be even aware, this is on their version of course, that he said something like that. That, I'm saying, is where the problems are.
Voyum Voko is our political editor, back with us a little bit later on. Now let's look at the legal side of all of this, particularly around this asbestos project as we go to the newsroom. Michael Apple, good afternoon to you. Charges relate to allegations of corruption in a 255 million rand Free State asbestos project. Maybe that's a good place to start. What was it?
So 2013-2014, the Free State Human Settlements Department decides to embark on this audit. How many asbestos roofs are there in the Free State? When that audit is finally completed, they find 36,000 odd homes. By last check about a month ago, there are still 33,000 homes. So 7 years on from that audit, only about 3,000 of those asbestos roofs have been removed and new houses built in their stead. Not a very successful project if one considers what was achieved and how much it cost. 255 million rand. The public protector found it actually only cost about 21 million rand, so there was a tenfold inflation on the price that the taxpayer paid for that little jaunt. Speaking about the warrant of arrest and where Magashule comes into this, he will be charged according to the Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act of 2004. 3 sections, Jeremy: Section 34, Section 3 and Section 4. Section 34 places a duty on a person in authority, like a premier, to report any offences they may have knowledge of. Failure to report an offence is a crime in itself. Section 3, a person can be charged if they directly or indirectly benefited from a gratification, whether it was for their benefit or for the benefit of somebody else. And Section 4 looks at corruption charges in relation to a person who is a public office bearer. That is what we know at the moment, and as we heard from J.C. Duarte, the DSG of the ANC, he himself has confirmed that he is being charged in terms of Section 4 of PRECA.
And just very quickly, the way these things normally go, there'll probably be more activity Friday outside the court than inside the court. Inevitably, these things are very brief. What will play out on Friday?
Yeah, a short drop and a sudden stop on Friday. It'll be a very quick court appearance. Traditionally, the first court appearance is simply a postponement for a formal bail hearing to be heard. This is where it gets interesting, Jeremy. If he arrives on the Friday and they generally postpone it by a couple of days, the Monday or the Tuesday, the Secretary-General of the ANC will be sitting behind bars for the weekend.
Michael Apple in the newsroom, thank you. The